everyone, my name is Lulu, and I'm super excited to tell you all about us Yordles, especially the ones you know from the Rift. Now, let's start with some facts about Bandle City. Opinions differ as to where exactly the home of the Yordles is to be found, though a handful of mortals claim to have traveled unseen pathways to a land of curious enchantment beyond the material realm. I mean, obviously, I know, but I'm not gonna tell you, sorry. They tell of a place of unfettered magic where the foolhardy can be led astray by myriad wonders and end up lost in a dream. In Bandle City, it is said that every sensation is heightened for non-Yordles. Colors are brighter, food and drink intoxicates the senses for years, and once tasted will never be forgotten. The sunlight is eternally golden, the waters crystal clear, and every harvest brings a fruitful bounty. Perhaps some of these claims are true, or maybe none, for no two telltellers ever seem to agree on what they actually saw. Only one thing is known for certain, and that is the timeless quality of Bandle City and its inhabitants. Yep, we are the best. This might explain why those mortals who find their way back often appear to have aged tremendously, while many more never return at all. When Heimerdinger and his Yordle colleagues migrated to Piltover, they embraced science as a way of life, and they immediately made several groundbreaking contributions to the techmaturgical community. What Yordles lack in stature, they make up for with industriousness. Corki, the daring bombardier, gained his title by test piloting one of these contributions. The original design for the Reconnaissance Operations Frontline Copter, an aerial assault vehicle which has become the backbone of the Bandle City Expeditionary Force. Together with his squadron, the Screaming Yipsnakes, Corki soars over Valarin, surveying the landscape and conducting aerial acrobatics for the benefit of onlookers below. Corki is the most renowned of the Screaming Yipsnakes for remaining cool under fire and exhibiting bravery to the point of madness. He served several tours of duty, often volunteering for missions that would take him behind enemy lines, either gathering intelligence or delivering messages through hot zones. He thrived on danger and enjoyed nothing more than a good dogfight in the morning. More than just an ace pilot, Corki also made several modifications to his copter, outfitting it with an arsenal of weapons, which some speculate were more for show than functionality. When open hostilities ceased, Corki was forced into a retirement, which he felt cut the engines and clipped the wings. He tried to make do with stunt flying and canyon running, but it was never the same without the refreshing smell of gunpowder streaking through the air around him. Even amongst Yordles, Rumble was always the runt of the litter. As such, he was used to being bullied. In order to survive, he had to be scrappier and more resourceful than his peers. He developed a quick temper and a reputation for getting even, no matter who crossed him. This made him something of a loner, but he didn't mind. He liked to tinker, preferring the company of gadgets, and he could usually be found rummaging through the junkyard. Rumble showed great potential as a mechanic, and his teachers recommended him for enrollment at the Wardle Academy of Science and Progress in Piltover. He may very well have become one of Heimerdinger's esteemed protégés, but Rumble refused to go. He believed that Heimerdinger and his associates were sell-out, trading superior Yordle technology to humans for nothing more than a pat on the head, while Yordles remained butt of their jokes. When a group of human graduates from the Yordle Academy sailed to Bandle City to visit the place where their mentor was born and raised, Rumble couldn't resist the temptation to see them face to face, so to speak. He only intended to get a good look at the humans, but 4 hours and several choice words later, he returned home bruised and bloodied with an earful about how he was an embarrassment to enlightened Yordles like Heimer. But all things cannot do, and one, praise on the Yordle, does the city dedicate to the world's ownership. The next morning, Rumble left Bandle City without a word and wasn't seen again for months. When he returned, he was at the helm of a clanking, mechanized monstrosity. He marched it to the center of town amidst dumbfounded onlookers, and there announced that he would show the world what Yordle tech was really capable of achieving. Lulu, oh, that's me. Hee hee. All right, where were we? I kind of flipped my book pages, and now I'm lost. Oopsie. Oh, right, there we go. Lulu was always a caring and deeply empathetic Yordle, who lived as much in her whimsical daydreams as in reality. Wow, she's awesome! One day, while wandering the material realm, she came upon what appeared to be a bird with a broken wing. She ran to help, at which point the bird turned into a tiny mischievous face spirit. Okay, that's kind of not fully how it went, but whatever, who wrote this? Before she could react, the fairy grabbed her walking stick and took off. Giggling, Lulu gave chase. The spirit led her far into the forest, where she met the wonderful, beautiful Teemo, and they fell in love. So pretty. Okay, fine, I made that up. Yes, I admit it, I like Teemo. Don't you dare laugh or I'll polymorph you into oblivion. Okay, thanks. They went over boulders, under logs, and around ancient, overgrown stone circles. The fairy darted into a cave hidden behind a waterfall, and Lulu went after it. It flittered ahead, always just out of reach. Down and down and down they went. Lulu tumbled and scrambled around twisted roots and glowing mushrooms, and at some point they crossed over into the spirit realm without her realizing it. Their surroundings became progressively stranger and more disorienting. Up became down, forward became backward, big became small. Finally, after what seemed forever, Lulu caught up with the fairy, whose name she discovered was Pix. With a click of his tiny fingers, Pix turned her humble walking stick into a spiraling staff and tossed it back to her. It sprouted leaves and flowers, making Lulu gasp in delight. So began their forever friendship, built of mischief, fun, and love of nature. Pix had led her to the glade. Bandle City, Lulu's home, was a bizarre and magical place that defied logic, where time was meaningless and the natural laws of the material realm did not wholly apply. And yet the glade was a place stranger still. It existed long before Yordles came into the world, and it was perhaps from the glade that Bandle City itself sprung. A place of raw primordial magic, it was hidden away so deeply that no Yordle had ever found it, until now. Here, Lulu's own magic became wildly magnified. Laughing joyfully, she discovered she could reshape her surroundings at will, as well as alter her form to whatever she wanted. Everything and anything from her overactive imagination came to life. Lulu didn't know if Pix had brought her here because he saw in her a kindred soul and simply wanted someone to play with, or if the glade needed her for some other purpose. But she fell in love with instantly. Her life became one of endless creation and play, and she soon forgot anything else existed. When finally she remembered, it was like waking from a dream. She found herself back in the material realm, not knowing if a single day had passed or 1,000 years. To her surprise and joy, she found that some of her newfound power had come with her, allowing her to make small things large, change colors to those more pleasing to her, and cause creatures to fall spontaneously asleep. To Pix's endless amusement, she turned the mightiest beasts into tiny bewildered frogs or squirrels with a flick of her staff. Nevertheless, she began to miss the glade. She decided to go back, but realized she didn't remember the way. Pix was no help, claiming to have forgotten as well, though it was possible he just didn't want to return quite yet. Unperturbed, Lulu set out anyway. She was certain the route back to the glade was always shifting, making one way as good as another. She simply picked whatever direction took her fancy at any particular moment, and even threw herself into seemingly terrible danger whenever it looked fun. Her travels took her far and wide, and magic, mayhem, and mishap tended to follow wherever she went. In Demacia, she freed a group of children from their boring history lessons and led them off into a nearby meadow. Her game resulted in them being turned into toadstools for a full turn of the moon, while their desperate parents and the local militia searched for them in vain. It wasn't quite what Lulu had intended, but fun nonetheless. When the children finally returned home and told everyone what had happened, no one believed them. In the borderlands of the Freljord, Lulu thought it would be hilarious to change the weapons of two rival tribes into flowers just as they clashed, which resulted in absolute chaos and confusion. More recently, she has found herself happily lost in Ionia, playing in the glowing everblooms of Kalen, and playing pranks on bewildered acolytes of the Order of Shadow, who she thinks are far too serious for their own good. While Lulu seeks to return to the glade and misses it, she is happy, for every day brings more opportunity for adventure and fun. And besides, she has come to realize that she carries a part of the glade in her heart, wherever she goes. Teemo. Oh, my favorite chapter. Hee hee. Well, Teemo has been a Bandle scout for as long as he can remember. hopping through portals all across Runeterra in order to find people in need. Badge 131 to befriend new creatures. Badge 389 to adopt a pet. Or even to document strange new species of mushrooms. Badge 248 to fungiology expert. For Teemo, there was no greater joy than spending his days seeking adventure and earning Bandle Scout badges, which was how he became the most decorated Bandle Scout the world had ever seen. Wow, did you hear that? Isn't he just the best? Gosh, I love him. He's so adorable. I want to squeeze him. But don't tell him, please, okay? He doesn't know it, okay? But he's just so cool, and I'm way too shy to approach him. Gosh. Oh, well, sorry about that. Let me continue. Bandle Scout rule number 154. Never fear the unknown. When other Yordles saw everything Teemo had accomplished, his dedication and enthusiasm inspired them to become Bandle Scouts. What began as a single scout with a dream grew and grew until Teemo was handing out badges to intrepid young cadets and writing new copies of the Bandle Scout rules for their journeys across Runeterra. Rules he'd luckily memorized, since his original handbook was lost somewhere in the water south of the Serpent Isles while he was learning to tie sailing knots. Bandle Scout rule number 13. Every day is an adventure. Make sure you are prepared. When one cadet surveyed Yordles across Runeterra regarding Bandle Scout contributions, Badge 567, Market Research, the feedback was unanimous. Under Teemo's fearless leadership, the Bandle Scouts were beloved the world over. Teemo is so cool. One time I saw him stop a raging stampede of wild horses. It was awesome. Ava, Bandle Scout. The Bandle Scouts have grown a lot. They put on this great big festival a while ago, had floats and everything. It was pretty neat. They even let me set off some fireworks. Tristana, the Bandle Gunner. That bitch. Oh gosh, I forgot to stop the recording. I love Tristana. She traveled far and wide, full of wonder and enthusiasm for the varied places, people, and creatures she encountered. Using the hidden pathways that only Yordles know, she explored the length and breadth of the material realm, remaining mostly unseen. She witnessed such breathtaking sights as ice trolls migrating across the flows of the far north beneath kaleidoscopic auroras. She marveled as warships blasted each other to pieces in naval battles that churned the seas. She watched awestruck as great armies marched with unity and precision, incredibly strange concepts to a Yordle, across the endless sands to the south. But Tristana's carefree wandering ways changed the day she witnessed the destruction of a Bandlewood. These places are steeped in the magic of the gateways they grow around, giving Yordles a safe haven from the world. Tristana, dozing in the dappled sunshine, was shaken awake as the trees around her began to burn and topple. A warband of armored marauders rampaged through the woodland with fire and axes, led by a sorcerer wreathed in dark energy. Tristana hid in horror. The sorcerer focused his power upon the portal at the heart of the Bandlewood, speaking one final utterance. Her ears still ringing with pain, Tristana watched the gateway collapse, never to be opened again. The ripples of that destruction were felt in Bandle City itself, causing great despair among the Yordles. Tristana had never experienced anything like the pain of this loss, or the guilt she felt for not acting. Never again would she allow such a terrible thing to happen. In that moment, she dedicated herself to become the guardian of all Bandlewoods and her fellow Yordles. Tristana had often marveled at how mortals protected the things that were dear to them. While she couldn't comprehend their reasons to guard shiny metals or walls of stone, she respected their methods and decided to emulate them. Other Yordles watched with curiosity as she took to marching around the borders of Bandle City, stern-faced, and watching out for danger. She started calling her food rations and set herself strict times for rest and relaxation. But something was missing. In her travels, she had seen many powerful inventions, including the black powder cannons of Bilgotcher. Inspired by them, she collected enough precious metal discs to commission a gun suited to her diminutive size. With a wry smile, she named it Boomer. Since then, Tristana has defended the Bandlewoods from innumerable threats. In the jungles of the Serpent Isles, she intervened in a clash between the local Buru people and treasure hunters from the Lauren that was getting too close to a hidden portal, sending them all running for their lives after she leapt into their midst. Boomer roaring. And in the burning deserts at the edge of Shurima, She destroyed a void horror after it began consuming a secret Bandlewood oasis, killing it with an explosive bomb down the gullet. Tristana has become something of a legend in Bandle City, and recently a number of Yordles have started to imitate her, trying, and mostly failing, to copy her disciplined ways. Some have even had weapons mimicking Boomer constructed for them by the scrappy inventor Rumble, who is always seeking to win Tristana's approval. While Tristana finds this all rather embarrassing, she has come to the conclusion that if they are going to defend the pathways to Bandle City, they had better do it properly. As such, she has started training these new recruits, and they have adopted a new moniker, the Bandle Gunners. Nevertheless, Tristana can often be found out in the wild and patrol by herself, simultaneously protecting the Bandlewoods and also getting away from her new and rather annoying trainees. Oh gosh, no. Do I really have to do this chapter? Can't we skip it? Okay, fine. I'll tell you about Veigar. For most of the peoples of Runeterra, Yordles are not typically something to be feared. Their fabled home of Bandle City is said to be a mysterious, spiritual place, filled with odd trinkets and keepsakes gathered from across the material realm. While these curious creatures often leave to dwell among mortal races for a time, they generally return with fresh tales and new experiences to recount. Yet, sadly, there are also those Yordles who lose their way. Among them is the sorcerer, Veigar. After the Great Darken War left the world in ruin many centuries ago, the only light that seemed to shine on Valoran came from the skies above. Scattered survivors looked to the heavens, and their renewed study of ancient celestial magic piqued Veigar's interest. Imagining himself already a master of these mystical arts, the Yordle joined an order of mages in the Noxie territories, hoping to learn more of their craft. They did not think to question this eager newcomer, and he taught them to draw hope from the patterns created by the movements of the stars. But while many toiled to rebuild the world, others sought to conquer it. The brutal warlord Mordekaiser and his army swept across the lands, crushing and enslaving any who would oppose his rule. And the mages of the order, unskilled in war, were of little value to this tyrant. Looming over them in his accursed battleplate, his keen eye fell upon Veigar, and Mordekaiser recognized the Yordle for what he truly was. He snatched him up in one iron gunlet and dragged his prize away as the other mages were put to the sword. Imprisoned in the heart of the warlord's new monolithic fortress, Veigar was forced to turn his magic to darker purposes. Knowing that Yordles were craftier than any of the mortal races, Mordekaiser bound Veigar to the physical plane, preventing him even from escaping to Bandle City. He was not the only captive in that hellish place, but such isolation was the worst and most cruel form of torture for a Yordle. Veigar performed grisly enchantments against his will, some strengthening his master's dominion, others simply evoking terror for terror's sake. Indeed, terror was what seemed to fuel this dreadful empire. Miserable beyond imagining, Veigar became a reluctant witness as Mordekaiser's vile deeds empowered him to near immortality. Whether it was over the course of decades or centuries, Veigar never knew, but eventually, the Yordle's magic and appearance started to twist in response. Memories of his past faded. Why had he come to Valoran? Where had he come from? Had he known any other life before this? Questions such as these weighed on his fragile mind, like the last flickers of light before an eclipse. When the Revenant Warlord's own followers conspired against him, the nightmare of his reign was ended. But by this point, Veigar was nigh unrecognizable. His eyes blazed, even his voice had become a sneer of malice. Fleeing from his ensorcelled cage, the wretched creature had no interest in the wars of succession that inevitably followed. Deep down, he most likely yearned to regain the sense of safety and freedom that all living things crave. And yet, he chose not to turn away from evil, but to embrace it. Clad in armor befitting a sinister warlock, he vowed to seize respect in the only way he could remember, through ruthless villainy, inspiring fear in all who encountered him. He would call down the fury of the stars themselves upon his foes, and trap them in the timeless infinities between moments. And yet, Veigar could not quite find the same success as his former captor. Certainly, the good people of Valoran did learn to fear him, to some extent. More often than not, they would find their pastures scorched, or the local baron's mansion razed to its foundations. Sometimes, though, inexplicably, bands of brigands would be driven from their woodland hideouts, or the remains of feral merc wolves found scattered through the town square. And it was difficult to tell whether these acts were malicious or actually reasonably helpful. For all his aspirations of evildoing, it seemed Veigar would always come up a tiny bit short. Still, the nefarious Yordle has not abandoned his quest to become the world's most wicked villain. With his diabolic staff in hand, he seeks nothing less than to bring all before him to their knees, and revels in the timely demise of those who dared to underestimate him. In the outlands of Bandle City, there was once a wooded glen where the moon moths glimmered and the riverbanks overflowed with rainbow fish. In a cottage nestled between the verdant trees lived a Yordle enchantress named Nora with her cat Yuumi. Born with magical powers of protection, Yuumi enjoyed a life of leisure for many years, pouncing on sunbeams and napping beneath the mouse trees. Whenever adventure sparked her interest, she joined Nora on explorations across the material and spirit realms. Nora spent her time collecting strange objects like broken cups, shards of colored glass, and fabric with funny stitching. She examined each artifact with deep reverence, though Yuumi never understood their purpose. Nevertheless, Yuumi would use her magic to protect Nora from harm and would warm her feet when they returned home. The doorways between realms are finicky and seldom open, even to creatures as dexterous as cats. Yuumi watched as other Yordles waited for days for the eastern star to align with a particular stone archway, or waited impatiently between marsh lilies, seeking a silver blossom blooming from the mud. Only then would a pathway appear. But Yuumi's Yordle, Nora, possessed the powerful Book of Thresholds, which allowed her to instantly travel anywhere depicted in its pages. When Nora opened a portal, she and Yuumi would gleefully dive into its glowing paper and arrive at their destination, joined a moment later by the book. Yuumi never paid the book much attention until one starless night, when she returned home from luring moon moths with her shine light to find Nora missing. She saw the book on her master's desk and flipped through its pages in a panic, noticing that some were torn out entirely. Unable to read its title, Yuumi cried out to it in distress, calling it simply Book. In response, the book wiggled, and Yuumi was surprised to learn she could understand thoughts amidst the rustling paper. Despite not having a voice, Book made itself loud and clear. Yuumi learned that Nora had gone somewhere so perilous, she had destroyed the portal as she traveled. Yuumi knew she had to rescue Nora, and turned to Book for help. Each of its 1,000 pages led to a different location along the lines of magic that crossed the material and spirit realms. The page Nora had used to travel was lost, but Book might be able to get them close. Yuumi and Book would have to explore every possible threshold. She became Book's unlikely keeper, vowing to protect it with the courage of a lion. If it fell into the wrong hands, the doorways to Bandle City could open to all kinds of unsavory and ravenous intruders. Yuumi and Book began their arduous journey, visiting dangerous and unfamiliar lands. Yuumi sought Nora's scent on the wind, to little avail. While Yuumi would sometimes break from their search to follow the scent of a mouse or restore her strength with a quick catnap, Book was frustratingly cautious, grumpy over lost time and nervous about threats they might encounter. Nevertheless, Yuumi and Book were both determined to find their master and bring her home. When Yuumi especially missed Nora, she often sought out other companions. One of her favorites was a door-carrying shepherd with thick whiskers and a deep laugh like a babbling brook. Yuumi rested on his shoulders for a time, protecting him from angry snow spirits stirring up flurries in a hailstorm, while he brought her wriggling fish. Eventually, Yuumi uncovered the scent of her master lingering in a vast Shurman ruin. Digging deep into the sand, she unearthed a broken shard of blue pottery that looked like a piece from one of Nora's teapots. Before she could burrow further, a ferocious beast surfaced from the sand, and Yuumi and Book barely escaped. She could only imagine the chaos if a creature like that ripped its claws into Book's pages. Though unlikely companions, Yuumi and Book have become fast friends, united by their love for Nora. Yuumi continues to search everywhere for signs of her master, so she can someday return to her life of napping in the sun by Nora's side. Well, that's it. The pages after this are empty. I hope you can learn a bit more about Bandle City today. See ya!